I graduated from St. Olaf College in 2017, and then I am a singer, so I have been away from the church, being gainfully employed elsewhere at other parishes, but it is nice to be back. In case you don't know, Gary Butler is my dad, so I grew up in this church sitting with the Lynns. They were my surrogate parents. Here. Okay. What if I held it up to my mouth? Okay. I'll do that. Too long. I'm gonna just get started chatting. The first page is just a picture of a mountain. Anyway, so I'm very excited to share with you the results of 10 months of my Fulbright grant. In case you don't know, Fulbright is a government-sponsored program. You can either be an English teaching assistant abroad. You can have a research project. I chose to do a research project, and I wanted to choose a Latin American country because I was a music and Spanish major at St. Olaf College, and something appealed to me about Latin America instead of Spain. Colonizer versus colonized is a very interesting dynamic to me, especially in terms of music. So the title of my project is Sueños de Sasa, which translated means Dreams of Sasa. The first piece that's being passed around is called Sasa. So in the beginning, as I was thinking about the project, what am I going to do, I was thinking, I want to create like an opera in 10 months because I really like storytelling and I really, really enjoy watching storytelling on the stage. I didn't really understand how long it would take to even put together recordings of 5 songs, but I imagined I would create a play with Ecuadorian music. It would have a really complex plot and revolve around the cultural norms presented in the music. And my singing teacher at the time from Minnesota expressed doubt that this would be possible in 10 months, which really bothered me because I don't like when someone tells me I can't do something. But he was right, and so I went on to the next best thing, which was to create the soundtrack. So instead of doing a fully staged production, I just did the soundtrack. And so throughout this whole process, the plot and maybe further characters or plot points or songs that are missing to fill in the plot began to unfold in my head. Some more background is that when I first wrote my project proposal I started in spring of 2019, so like pre-pandemic, before I even realized that I really wanted to perform as a career. And I was accepted a year later. So I got the acceptance letter April of 2020, 1 month into the pandemic. And I was supposed to leave September of 2020, and then it was delayed because the situation of COVID was really bad, like extremely bad in Guayaquil. I read some very harrowing articles, and it's good that it was delayed, honestly. But, and this is partly my own fault, my original project, which was to join a research team at Universidad de las Artes, University of the Arts in Guayaquil, which is a coastal city in Ecuador. It was to join that research team and assist them in gathering more music, Ecuadorian music, because it's not documented the way that German music is or French music is because of several reasons. But when I arrived then, January of 2021, I met with the director of the Sound Arts School, and I met with the International Relations Director, and they said, oh yeah, the project you were going to join is not happening because of the pandemic. So I'm like, okay, I'm here. What am I going to do for 10 months? I don't have any friends, I don't know anybody, I don't have an apartment, I don't have any furniture. Fulbright was located in Quito, I was located 9 hours away in Guayaquil, so I was just like, what am I going to do? So I came up with a new project, which is creating this soundtrack, which was derived from the fact that the research team had all these PDFs of songs, but nobody was recording them or doing anything with them. So it was my goal to do something with those PDFs, or those songs, if I couldn't, be researching new music. I'm just gonna keep going. That's okay. I don't know how to do it either. So, is it warming up? So, I'll talk about the motivation for my project. So the core of my research and the core of the core of my career goals are new stories that I've never heard. And I'm like this way beyond the Fulbright. I'm like my great uncle and my grandpa. I love hearing stories of people's own experiences. But my academic background is the classical music canon of Western Europe and North America. And both of my parents are organists, which means I grew up going to church at least twice a week. And in both scenarios, I was immersed in storytelling, hearing the same stories over and over again, right? We sing the same liturgy, there's a 3-year cycle. In opera, we hear the same stories over and over again. But the thing about opera is that they talk about love in this weird ultimatum. About Carmen, La Boheme, Traviata, Rigoletto. There's an ultimatum. Love me or I die. Or you die. Someone has to die. And this love is typically based on a single glance or a brief encounter. And I find that does not have much depth or nuance. It motivates me to bring stories not well known by Ecuadorian authors. And when I was researching these songs, I found that a lot of these lyrics reflect in a deep, ethereal, and more passionate way these feelings of love and nostalgia. I found that it marked very clear differences between classical European and American authors and these Ecuadorian lyricists and storytellers. The final part of the storytelling is that telling these stories through these lyrics, it's not only new stories because of these lyrics, but it's also, if I'm collaborating, the way the trombonist plays is specific to, Roberto. It's specific to that person. If I'm collaborating with an arranger, it's specific to how Marilyn is going to arrange this song. No one's going to arrange it just like her. So it was important to me to include many voices, not only from the PDFs of the music that I was working with, but also with the students at the university and my collaborators. I'll talk about where I was. In case you don't know, Ecuador is on the Pacific coast of South America. It also includes the Galapagos Islands. Ecuador is about the size of Illinois and Indiana combined. I was in Guayaquil, which is on the southern coastal part of Ecuador. Guayaquil to Quito is 9 hours by bus, 2 hours by plane, and then Guayaquil to Salinas Beach, which is further over on the west coast, is about 2.5 hours. Their main exports are crude petroleum, fish, and bananas, and they export mainly to the US. My friend who works in politics was like, Ecuador's government is really happy right now about oil prices. They are predominantly Catholic, and the geographic diversity is a naturalist's dream. I mean, there's the Galapagos, first off, but there's the Ecuadorian Amazon. There's the Sierra, which includes, I mean, apart from the Himalayas, the highest volcanoes and mountains in the world. Chimborazo is 20,000 feet above sea level. I have a map in my presentation that shows, how many volcanoes. Okay.
Sorry. We have to invest in some updated.
So I'll really go into details, and maybe afterwards, if you'd like to see more up-close photos, I welcome you to come up and see them. So this map shows Ecuador. Guayaquil is here. Cuenca is more south. Quito is up here. So here to here is about 9 hours by bus. I don't know if you can see colors. There's blue here. These are all volcanoes, you guys. There's all volcanoes. Ecuador is located on tectonic plates. They have several earthquakes every year. There was a very large earthquake in Quito when I was there. So, I mean, this place, Quito is the capital city, and it's surrounded by all of these volcanoes. Some of them are active. Not all of them, but some of them are. In fact, when I was flying back in October, my flight was delayed by 12 hours because of Volcan Sangay, which is right here, and it was erupting. So they live in this amazing place that could just be covered by lava, or like buildings topple at any moment, which is very important as I went forward and was analyzing these lyrics from a perspective of culture. In this picture, it's a picture of me hiking Cotopaxi. Me hiking Cotopaxi, which is 19,000 feet above sea level. I did not make it to the top, but I was so close. And this is another photo of Guayaquil, which is the coastal city during the drier season. So the point is, I want you to understand, Amazon, Sierra, dry, desert, beach, I mean, it has everything. It has everything. The next point I want to make is that I was in Guayaquil, in the financial district downtown. My roommate was another Fulbright research grantee, which was good for me. Their name is Libby Ponce. They are another arts grantee, and they started an art gallery in our apartment, which was very exciting. And also convenient because we didn't have any furniture. So, by the way, to take an apartment that has really high walls, very large space, but we have no furniture. So just put art up on the walls and make it look like it's on purpose. You're right, exactly. So it took me a while, and I was debating how much to talk about this, but the first 3 months were really, really hard. Fulbright was not spoon-feeding me anything at all. I mean, essentially, Sepia coached me into this, but she was like, you really need to think about Fulbright as a bank at this point. And this does not reflect Fulbright, worldwide, but Fulbright Ecuador specifically was very hands-off. They didn't assist me in finding an apartment. They did not even reach out to the U.S. Embassy in Ecuador to tell them that there were 2 Fulbright grantees in Ecuador. So it took me a while to, tell myself that you need to do it, Christina. If you want to make friends, you need to find them. If you want to make professional connections, you need to find it. And it took a really long time for me to figure that out. And so this Fulbright experience really took me from student to professional, because I did it myself. I did it. It taught me that I needed to be assertive about my position and my project, because nobody was going to offer me anything. They weren't going to offer me a resource. And there were some cultural adjustments. Like, everyone is constantly checking their email in the States, but in Ecuador, at least in Guayaquil, in the university I was working with, it was all through WhatsApp, which is an international messaging application. Everything, like professional interactions through WhatsApp. But essentially, it was me needing to be way more extroverted than I'm used to. The question was always like, ¿y dónde está el after? Like, where is the after party? And I'm like, what? It's 2 2 in the morning. Are we gonna go home? One time I left a party at 3 a.m. and my friend texted me, "You left so early last night." I was like, "Are you kidding me? I left at 3 in the morning." Anyway, so I'm gonna move on to the next slide. I made some gigging friends in mid-July, and I started singing for weddings and cultural events with this trio, Sepia jazz trio, and they did Django Reinhardt style jazz tunes, and I lived for it. It was so fun. I got to represent the United States in that way as someone who came from a country that has its roots in jazz. This is a timeline. So January through February, reframing, rethinking my project. What am I going to do? March through May, research. So I dug through over 500 PDFs of Ecuadorian songs. My goals had to be by an Ecuadorian composer. I had to like the melody. I wanted to be able to hum it. I didn't want to march or anything like that. I wanted to be able to hum the melody. And the lyrics had to pertain to Ecuador in some way. So maybe it mentions a city, like Guayaquil. Or maybe it mentions flora and fauna, like it mentions birds and waves or a specific type of bird. I really wanted it to be Ecuadorian. Even though I'm not from Ecuador, I wanted it to talk about that. Because to me, if folk music, the thing about folk music that's so interesting is that there are these little puzzle pieces. And if you are from that culture, you maybe recognize that term or that phrase as something that comes from your community. And that to me are like little golden nuggets that I really wanted to be able to capture. June through July was artistic planning, and that was working with arrangers, finding master's degree students, recruiting volunteers. I worked with all students and professional musicians in Guayaquil, and that was me networking and like getting people recruited. I ended up with a team of over 35 people at the university. So that was a lot of scheduling and coordination and promising to pay them back sometime in the future in some capacity, because I did not have money to pay them for anything, honestly. And then August through November was the production. So scheduling again, coordinating what are the materials we need to reserve the space, I need to make sure everybody has their scores printed, I need to make sure that the sound people at the university know what we're doing, how many mics we need, all that stuff was the wrapping up rehearsal processes and recording, and then doing the mixing process afterwards. So if you've ever put an album together, which I had never done before this, you really do need to go into the studio afterwards and find somebody who knows how to, do the advanced version of GarageBand and do all the levels and mixing and everything, and like, wow, that violin is really out of tune, we should like fix that. That kind of stuff. So I learned a lot along the way. I wore many hats that I'd never worn before. And then along the way, actually, in July, I was able to give several presentations. I gave one on vocal anatomy, which was interesting to be able to learn and then try to pronounce repetitively the name of like vocal anatomy in Spanish. I truly practiced beforehand, like practiced the words in my tongue. And then I also gave a presentation in Spanish about the history of jazz in the United States, which was very rewarding for me. I shared how much of it is Black American music, and I shared, what's the one? By Charles Mingus, that's da-dum, da-da-da-dum, da-dum. And the original version is Don't Tar and Feather Us, KKK, like very like visual lyrics. And when I asked these students at the beginning of the presentation, what is jazz to you? They said, oh, it's relaxing music. I'm like, get ready. So it was very rewarding to me to not only bring depth about US culture to the music community at this university, but also to really, especially in the wake of George Floyd's murder in 2020, which was international news, I really wanted them to get it straight. Like, this is what's up, okay. That's very rewarding. Okay, now I'm gonna get into the music, finally. I don't know if everyone's seen the score yet or has seen the lyrics. The first song in the album is called Sasa. This is the name of someone. So again, all of these songs were originally written for voice and piano. And when I thought about recording this album, I thought that's kind of boring, we should probably arrange these. So some background, not all of these songs have dates on them. They were just, recovered by this team of professors and students, and I found them online. So this was written sometime between 1904 and 1952. Spain had ruled Guayaquil until 1820. So of course, it's a pasodoble, which is a Spanish, like from Spain, song. Think clavas, whatever they're called. Castanets, yeah. Castanuelas is the Spanish word. So think of like, the big red thing, like march. So it's very Spanish, but we're in Guayaquil. And here's where a cultural thing comes in. There is a very stark cultural difference between Quito and Guayaquil. Quito is the capital. Has much more Spanish influence, and all of my friends are like, Quito is so boring, like, it doesn't have a nightlife, and Guayaquil does. And I lived downtown, which meant every day I heard doom, ka-doom, 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 like every car passing by. So it was just a very different vibe between Guayaquil, coastal city, and Quito. So I wanted that to be reflected in at least one song. So I asked my friend Marilene, who is extremely talented, to add a part into this pasodoble. I wanted her to add a part that sounded like a Latin big band. So she added guabanco, which is a Cuban style of music. Think like salsa, essentially. There's piano, there's like 9 percussion instruments, there's a rhythm section, all of it. So she produced the guabanco for the second verse, and I felt that this really encapsulated what I was imagining in the album, with the brutal screams of the jazz band, as our protagonist, Sasa, describes it in the lyrics. Since we're not very close together, you can't really see this, I'm going to read through the lyrics. I am the beautiful and elegant Sasa, like the dawn of a tropical sun. So already, we have Guayaquil, where it's 85 degrees and sunny every day. I feel in my artist's soul to live the great sad bohemian life, and my elegant figure flourishes between the thrilling shout of the jazz band and the clear triumphant claps of the lads of Guayaquil. Sasa, Sasa, lovely dancer, they say to me everywhere, Sasa, oh graceful and divine, the fire of your being gives us light. So we have fire, light, party, it's all Guayaquil. So the chorus will repeat several times. Through my body and at a gentle pace that the foxtrot rhythm brings me, another European genre of music, a marine from an English ship that seems to be doing the camel trot has hinted his love for me, and in speaking his dreadful language, always speaks with a crazed fervor that I say to him, oh yes. Then the chorus repeats. In my life of revelry and champagne, with my few years in bloom, I never wanted that clumsy womanizer, and with money he would want my love. With luck and swift exchanging glances, and with a smile from the Carnival King, which is in reference to Carnaval, the voice has lowered to be very quiet and has named the heartthrob of my ideal. So we have set the scene. We have Sasa, who's this mysterious, young, lovely woman. She has a dream of how she wants her life to be. And as I go through these songs, I want you to imagine, now that we know who Sasa is, I want you to imagine her. Is this her talking? Is this her partner talking? Is this the heartthrob of her ideal in her brain talking? There's so many options for how this story could go. And the more that I went on with this music, the more options there were. So I invite you to just kind of like imagine what's going on here. These pictures are screenshots of the lyrics, which I invite you to come up and look at. They're in Spanish, but it's like, handwritten manuscript. So it's very interesting to see. And then we're going to try to play this, but it's not going to be very loud, and it's going to sound really bad because it's laptop speakers. Spanish.
Ya no
So I hope you imagine Sasa have her in your brain. She has many different personalities. As I was doing this project, wearing many hats, this was one of the scariest pieces to conduct because there were several people involved, and I really thought back, what would Dr. Marr do, who, if you don't know, was my band conductor at St. Olaf College for 4 years. Brilliant man. I was just like, what would Dr. Marr say in this situation? So the next song is called Entre los dos, which is between the two. I selected it for its sweet melody line and lyrics that alluded to the natural companionship found in nature. When I spoke with Marilene about this arrangement, I sent her a song named Cien Años, 100 Years by Pedro Infante. I don't know by any chance anybody knows that song, but it has a very lilting melody. I just liked the easy pace and the dreamy, hazy quality. This says, it was composed in 1932 originally. This says Ecuadorian Waltz. It's the honeymoon song. So maybe Sasa has found her ideal hunk. Again, a relationship explained through pairs in nature. And it does describe vaguely Ecuadorian flora and fauna. I'm going to read the lyrics out loud, if I can find them. Here they are. Okay. You haven't seen, maybe, how the birds fly anxiously from one nest to the other, right behind each other. And in the same tree every afternoon, together they sleep, 2 by 2. Furthermore, not just them, also the waves with great eagerness, paired with each other, they go, singing rhythms to the sea. The breeze comes, quick her flight, sways the flowers, and with her swaying, the wing of the birds, devoted and exhausted to slumber, also sleep amongst the flowers. Then, the breeze that the flowers exhale joins the breeze, hazy and delicate, fragrance and the breeze, mixed, dreaming of love, dreaming of love, dreaming of love, dreaming of love. You do not understand those mysteries, in which I will always. Why do you penetrate those secrets? You have to feel what I felt. That of the waves that bind together, that of the birds. Everything is love. The soul's love more than the breeze, more than the birds, more than the flower. Maybe. I think I'm just gonna play this. for time, I'm gonna move on. So if you could hear the two violins represent the pair, the parallel thirds and the guitar represent a pair. Marilene did such a good job with that one. So, where is Sasa now? You guys, if she only knew what's coming, poor girl. Okay, so the next song is called Perdon, which means forgive me, mercy. I don't know the date, but the genre is a pasillo. And to Ecuadorians, the pasillo is kind of the national music, kind of like a snooty national music. But the lyrics represent a change, the dramatic change in the relationship that has evolved. The lyrics remind me of the dramatic aria in an opera when the bond between the couple begins to break and it's a little toxic. So this says basically what I just said. It approaches heartbreak. This is special. It approaches heartbreak in a more human, authentic way. It avoids the love or death ultimatum. Instead, it's like, please forgive me, which I think is way more human than you're gonna die or I'm gonna die. One of the parts of the lyrics says, I cannot stand your raptures. I cannot stand anymore what we're going through. And again, it comes back to having more nuance in a relationship. The lyrics read, with melancholic and shaky steps, I arrive again to you with fear, to implore you for forgiveness, a lover's forgiveness, and tell you directly that now I cannot. I cannot put up with your fascinations. I cannot support such tragedy. To say that the soul is conquered by kisses is to be an actor in a false comedy. This needs to be staged because she just said that. Okay. I come to you on my knees to kiss your eyes and your mouth. Although I know my behavior is tarnished, I continue believing that you are crazy. But in the end, I'll forgive you. Luck is that way. There is not more love than through the deceiving tune. This is some of the lyrics I had a hard time translating. That's one of them. I will never forget you, even in death. Poor girl, in the end, I forgive you. So this could be Sasa saying these words. This could be her, lover, partner, whatever, saying these words to her. It could be society as a whole.
These all your translations?
They are. And Google. But mostly me. So imagine what's happening to Sasa through these lyrics. The next song is called El Cataclysmo. And if you have the lyrics in front of you, you'll notice it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so this is a grand waltz, and it's by someone named Asensio Pauta, who is from Cuenca. It was written sometime between 1918. It's not clear. There's very little information about this one. On the lyrics, it says this: "Oh, what fear attends me, and I am sad for the rest. What a horrendous case I am seeing. The catastrophe is jumping out in front of me. Through the air, cities like birds fly, and the high mountains are flooded by the sea. My gift is useless, and disguised it frightens." Again, this doesn't make any sense. And then in the lyrics, they talk about the visionary Dr. Falb. Who is that? I don't know. It sounds like he should be in a play. Amazing. One, two, three. Yeah. Okay. I selected this piece because of the reasons I listed earlier. Ecuadorian composer talks about flora and fauna. I mean, if we're thinking about Cataclysmo, I think of catastrophe. I mean, and how many volcanoes are there, earthquakes, we're right next to the sea, and all these, mountains. If you can imagine someone writing a piece about, the volcano that has erupted or the earthquake, everything is coming down around this person. And so I selected it because of those very strong storytelling qualities. I also selected it because it was the closest thing to an art song that I could find. And you guys, it had a flute part. It's for me. So I reached out to a musicologist. I took a class from this person, and he said the following about these words. "Hi, Christina. Look, I was analyzing the lyrics of this piece, and what has happened is very unique. It is written in Old Spanish, but it has some linguistic hints of the Afro people, of African, descendants. This is understandable because at that time, the southern region of Cuenca, where Pauta was from, had many relations with Peru, the Rima folks, where there was a large Afro population. So to clarify this and make it understandable, you really would have to do critical editing and historical research, which I did not have time for. So, if you would like to see these lyrics that kind of don't make sense, I can pass that around here, Janet. I won't play the whole thing. It's quite long, and it's 9 minutes of relentless melismas. But I thought the lyrics were so interesting because who is this character, Dr. Falb? Is he Sasa's therapist? Is he a traveling magician? Is he her hunk? Who is this guy? So you can imagine just as well as I have who this person is and what role he plays in Sasa's life. Something interesting that my mom brought up about this piece is that maybe is not only, the physical cities coming around Sasa, but it could also be her relationship. Oh, what fear attends me. I'm going to see Dr. Falb for my, emotional ailments. Anything could be happening to this poor girl. Oh no. Okay, hold on. So it goes on for a long time. There's several different sections, but I mean, there's repeats all over the place, and the pianist and I were like, we're not repeating. This is too much. So something that's characteristic about Ecuadorian music is that they always have these cute, waltzy, bippity-boppity little melodies, and then they're talking about something so sad. It's like, the city's falling down around me, I'm so heartbroken, like, I might die because this person doesn't love me, or, I mean, my love has left me and she's never coming back, and then it's like, da-da-da-da-da-da. Me. Yeah, so I was also directing. So well, that's the magic of technology. John actually helped me mix this one. Right, so for this one specifically, I recorded voice and piano together, and then later I recorded the flute part, and then we put it together in GarageBand. Yeah. But I am the vocalist on all of these, and the conductor, and creative mind. So the last piece of the album is called Lo Desconocido, which is the unknown. It was composed in maybe 1930s, but we're not sure. The composer dates are 1896 to 1987, and this is an Ecuadorian tango. This one does not talk about nature or Ecuador by name, but it called my attention because the lyrics are so complex. And it's a perfect way to end the story with poetry that makes the audience question not only what happened to the protagonist, our dear Sasa, but also larger existential questions. So I'm going to read this slowly. I am the water and the wind that die in your walls, the sobs of all the eyes that have cried, the sighs that fly from future lips. Of love I have been born, and pain has raised me. I am memory of something that rises from the forgotten, fleeting premonition of upcoming torture. My soul is made of dust from all the souls that have been, and they enclose within themselves the seeds of future souls. My voice is only an echo of other lost ones, voices that still do not rise up, and voices that have passed. My life is like a bridge stretched to other lives over the deep abyss of unlimited time. The more that you run away, the more I flee from you, and we'll end up together, roaming in the void. There's something in me that in other times has been yours, and something in you that in other times has been mine. Shady eternity will be the cradle and the grave. We are like the two last notes of a psalter that have become confused in forming a harmony. We are two twin sphinxes guarding a memory. So this one again appealed to me for the way that it talks about some relationship or some condition in such a deep, existential, tragic way. And I think it really lends itself to the stage for that reason. I compared the two notes, I compared the couple with the two notes of the Psalter, and I imagine it in a very high church, which is very Spanish. Soy el agua y el running short on time. I'm going to give credit to my mom, Ione Butler, for bringing in a very interesting plot point with all the talk of dust and lost ones and ashes with this one. My mom was imagining that maybe Sasa is walking through the ruins after El Cataclysmo and imagining what has her life become. There's only five songs in the album, but I imagine there could be more. What's missing from this project, I really do believe, is more academic research. I'm missing a lot of information about authors, when was the piece written, like really basic stuff that we consider to be academic research.
And what about how it was used at the time it was written?
Precisely.
You don't know that either.
I don't know that either. No, I really don't. So
So you found these all as manuscripts, though?
Yep, digitally archived by the university.
Not in living tradition.
Nope. I mean, definitely like the pasillo, the piece with two guitars, fit into tradition. Though there's a lot of historical context about pasillo and where that was, played and who danced to it and all that. But I mean, in Ecuadorian tango, people kind of were like, "What? Are you sure it's Ecuadorian?" I'm like, "Yes, the guy is from Ecuador." So there's just like a lot of information missing. I would like to disseminate this music more widely, not only in an educational way, but also marketing for the people that work so hard on all this music. Especially the first two arrangements were by my friend Marilene Anciani, the salsa one and the waltz one. I think her work was so great. And then, I don't know, maybe when I get a McKnight grant or something, I'll turn it into a theatrical work. And I need to add more Ecuadorian music. There's a big jump from Honeymoon Waltz to I Can't Forgive You for all your horrible things you've done to me. It's a big jump. So that's kind of where it's going. I think one of the best parts, as I mentioned, going from student to professional, but also as a creative person, you guys, I made all of this up. It's just like out of my brain. And it was so empowering that people were like, "Yeah, this is so cool. Like, you should do more with this." Even though I just made it up. I just literally made it up. It was not grounded in years of academic research or digging through archives. It was just that is what being a generative creative person is making stuff up, and hopefully it means something to other people. But that was quite rewarding. And I really would like to involve more people if this project continues forward. So that's all I have, and I would love to answer questions.
At that time, Guayaquil was regarded as a very rough, lawless, violent seaport.
What?
Lawless, violent, rough seaport. It was a no-go.
Yeah.
And it was a no-go area for volunteers. Ironically, now if Ecuador had Peace Corps volunteers in the United States, probably Minneapolis, St. Paul would be regarded as the violent no-go area for volunteers. So I was just wondering, what was your feeling about that now? From your description of your living environment, it seemed much different than from the descriptions that the volunteers had at that time.
So I don't know where. So if everyone could hear the question, it's more about safety, correct? What my experience was in terms of safety. I think there's potential for violence anywhere you go, and I think especially during the pandemic, people have been way more desperate in all places all over the world. I was briefed on security things, don't go out at night, don't get in a yellow taxi, a lot of things that I was told you shouldn't do, especially as someone, you guys, they call me blonde. I was like, are you sure? You should come to Minnesota and see the Norwegian descendants. But I definitely stuck out. I was, good 5 inches taller than everybody else and had blonde hair. So, if you are foreign, you do stick out. There were places that were off limits for us, like we were not to go to that part of the country. I'm not really sure what else to say besides that. I mean, I've been robbed several times in Minneapolis out of the Catholic church I used to work for. Car broken into in your own driveway. There's just potential for violence anywhere, and being robbed, and it was on my mind as a security thing.
Were you robbed there?
I was robbed, yeah, and it was really an ugly experience. But the one of the biggest reactions I had from folks that were there was like, really hope you don't get the wrong idea about Ecuador. And I was like, of course not. You're all so generous and caring, and they're way more into communal living, I think, than the United States is as a whole. It's sharing time, food, come over to our house. Of course, I'll drive you over there. I mean, a lot more, more communal living and less like do it yourself, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, all that stuff. That's kind of what I'd say about that.
Yeah, I think partly it's just that the seaports were a lot different than when they were.
Sure, yeah, and I thought I was going to have more free time to travel, and I really did not. I was in Guayaquil for the majority of the time, and I was in Quito for 2 weeks, so I didn't really see that much of the country, unfortunately.
You didn't go to Guatemala?
No. Unfortunately. Are there other questions? Cool. Well, if you want to come up and look at any of the photos that we were not able to share on the screen, I'm happy to share that information. Or if you want to ask me another question, that's cool too. Yes, Lynn.
Do you have any recordings of any of the gigs that you did with that trio?
Yes, she asked if I have any gigs recordings of gigs that I did, and yes, they're on Facebook. But yeah, I do have some. Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Isn't there amazing? One on Facebook.
Yeah.
Is there more than one?
Yeah, there's a couple. So the group was 2 guitar players, and let me tell you, guitar players are so much easier to find there than they are here. I mean, classical guitar players, people who can play, the pasillo player that I found was incredible. His fingernails were so long. And I just, that was an incredible group to play with. And Luchito, the bass player, was excellent. Just really they knew how to jam.
So the people that you got, these 35 people, were they within the university? So when the first 3 months you talked about being lost and trying to figure out where to live and all. How did you build the community? How did you find this Ecuadorian community?
So she asked, how did I build the team? Specifically the team So most of them, there were students. Majority of the people I worked with were students. Sound production people were either employees of the university or students who had recently graduated and they were doing an internship of some kind. As all creative projects go, there were some people who had to drop out or didn't learn their music in time, so I had to essentially fire them, which was not fun, but that was also a learning point for me, was how to be a leader. And in my experience, especially in the music setting, being a leader means you need to hold everybody to a very high standard. Well, of course, prioritizing them as people. But if you don't show up to rehearsal, and then when you do show up to rehearsal, you don't know your part, you're not gonna play. And I can't let you play in this. So there were a couple professionals that I did end up paying 2 folks to come in, very last minute, because it was recording day and I needed someone to come in and play. But it was all asking, guitar teacher, who would you recommend to play in this group? Or I need a salsa pianist. Do you know anybody who can play salsa? Or, that kind of thing. And then there's a lot of, sending the voice memo on WhatsApp, being like, hi, my name is Christina, you don't know me, I'm a Fulbright researcher, and I'm doing this project, blah, 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 I can't pay you, but you'll have this amazing recording, and you get to work with me. Really being assertively professional, and kind of not really taking no for an answer was a lot of, I was like, I have to be really assertive. But mostly asking people, who would you recommend, was how I made the connections. And the classical music world is very small, at least what I found in Guayaquil. So once I met one person, I kind of met everybody, and that's how I met the people from the Sepia Jazz Trio. Was I went to this opera rehearsal trying to network with somebody, and then Francisco was there, my opera friend, and he was like, "Are you that gringa soprano?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "My friend," he worked at an English school, and I met his German friend earlier, and so his German friend had talked to him about a soprano that was gringa, and Francisco then invited me to his house where like Carlos was, and that was a guitar player. So it was just like once you know someone and they're so like, "Come to my house, like, let's have dinner, like, let's go get lunch, let's go," very inviting. So you're just kind of invited in once you're there. Yeah. When I'm going back, yeah.
Daughter-in-law is from Ecuador, Guatemala. But I was going to ask, one of the things that we, over the years, have found that we talk about Ecuadorian time, that everybody runs late. I don't know if you experienced that.
So he's talking about Ecuadorian time, which was where everything kind of runs late. And I would say, like, from some people, there's a lot of pushback about that. Like, my boyfriend, Steven, was like, "I hate Ecuadorian time. I think it's so unprofessional." And he works in politics. But I did run into Ecuadorian time when running rehearsals. My percussionist, who is so good, played all 9 instruments on the first piece, Sasa, would come in an hour late to rehearsal sometimes. Kelvin, I love you, but you cannot come in late like that. So it was just patience. And not everybody did that. I had some people who came in, right on the dot or early. But I did get some professional advice that was like, if you want them to be there at 1 o'clock, you need to tell them to be there at 12:30. I wouldn't say it was an obstacle that I couldn't overcome. And in the long run, so everything gets pushed back an hour. Like, what's the big deal? Like, really, is it really that big of a deal? I learned to not pack in my schedule so tight, which is kind of nice. I think we're all running around, especially pre-pandemic, we're all running around so busy, our schedules packed so tight, and then there's no time to, go to the after, ¿dónde está el after? Where's the after party? There's no time for an after if you have to hurry to your next thing. So I think it allows for a lot more social time. I was annoyed sometimes by the lateness, but it didn't, frustrate me to the point that I, couldn't take it anymore. Yeah. Well, we're gonna have an opera, maybe. Yeah. Yes. Thank you all for coming. I was